All right, episode 83. Boom. We
Finally
hit up a book review. This is actually the first in a book review.
Yeah.
We're still going to go by the numerical values that have already been counted. So it's technically episode 83, even though it's book review number 1.
Yes.
Maybe we should put that in the title somewhere. Book review number 1, episode 83.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. But
That's up to you.
we dissected Bhagavad Gita. Say it, Vish.
The Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, hear that? Bhagavad Gita. Say it, Vish.
Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, Western Bhagavad Gita.
Well, somewhat scuffed Eastern Bhagavad Gita.
But you're more Eastern than I am because you speak.
I guess so.
Speak Hindi. I speak like.
No, I don't speak any language.
No, but you understand it. Right?
What?
Hindi?
No.
You don't?
Not in. There's so many languages in India.
What do you understand, Vish?
Well, I would say
this is its own podcast on itself.
It's more like Kannada. That's what it's called.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember you told me that once. Anyways, this is the Bhagavad Gita book review. Enjoy it.
Here we go.
2, 1, boom, and we're back with another episode of Socratic Gamers. This is actually not a weekly roundup. I was about to say this is your weekly roundup, but no, this is the first in a series of book reviews. Yeah. Vish had the sweet idea, because I read a lot of books, that we should talk about some books. Yeah, because like a lot of books get like a lot of acclaim.
Yeah.
And like the assumption is that like, oh, they're really, really good, so it's partially why I pick them all up and I read them, just to see if they're actually as good. And like I got told once, oh, maybe you didn't understand it, but it's like by a person that also didn't read it. So it's like,
right.
So what do you mean you didn't even read it, bro? But yeah, so we're gonna start off this series and dissect a bunch of books that are supposedly really good, and we'll see if they're actually really good. Vish has not read any of these books.
Because I don't read.
He does not read. He watches a lot of docs, like, which I find kind of funny, because it's like people are like, oh, like you read a lot, but it's like, yeah, but you watch a lot of TV, which I don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the same amount of time. You know,
it's the same amount of time. That's true.
Right. And like when you train your eyes like to get faster at reading, like I could probably read a 200-page book in maybe like 4 hours.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it sounds pretty good, but it's like you'll finish a whole movie or a doc in 4 hours as well, and you'll gain, you know, a bunch of knowledge as well, because like the more you read, you'll notice that like a lot of books are filled with fluff.
Right.
Like they'll put a bunch, but like I've like sped read through those fluff parts, and I slow down whenever it gets really good. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, this is like you're describing blah blah blah, right? But it's like that's not necessary right now. Or you've read so many examples that you know exactly what they're talking about.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like doing a bunch of math problems that are like addition. You get faster at addition over time.
Oh, I see.
But if I was reading like a science book, I'd have to slow down and be like, okay, let me cross-reference, like, what is this? Where's this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right. So the first book we thought we would talk about is the Bhagavad Gita.
Right, yeah. It's not it's a translation from...
Yes.
Barbara Miller, I think it was.
Yeah, it's Barbara Miller. I've read another one, and I've heard different iterations of this story before.
Yeah.
The other one, Mitchell something. It wasn't that good. Like, I picked it up again to, like, browse through it really quickly and, like, be like, oh, what was this? Like, how is this translation again? But, like, the Barbara Miller one, her name is Barbara Miller?
Yeah, check the book.
That's right. It's right here. Yes.
Right there.
Barbara.
Stoller.
Yeah.
Miller.
Yeah, Barbara Miller. This is a really good translation, because they made it very like easy to read and more of like a novel.
Oh, okay. You
know, like the one I read, Mitchell's one, is kind of like a poem, but this one's more of like a dialogue that's not as poetic, and it's more like
right.
practical.
I think the original is like a poem.
Yeah, no, all versions of this book are poems.
Gotcha.
Like, but it's not really poems. They're written.
No,
like
I know what you.
Yeah, but like they're set up like poems. Like each one is. Yeah. Like they're like short. That's why you can read it really quick. It's like this is probably like 2 hours of reading.
Right.
Maybe 3 if you're kind of slow. But it's just the discipline of sitting for 3 hours. You know what I So
Yeah.
people wouldn't do it. But
Right.
yes, so if you haven't read it, you should definitely pick it up. Basically, the summary is actually. Do you wanna give a bit of what you know, like what you
Well,
believe the summary to be? Like you grew up Hindu.
well, you read the
so
book, though. We're talking about the book
no,
specifically.
I know,
right?
but like in Hindu lore, like what did
I don't know exactly what it covers, the
um,
Bhagavad Gita itself.
mhm.
I know specific stories
I like the
that
way you say that. Say that again.
the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, I say Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
It's very Western. Sorry, you're saying yeah.
Because like I know stories of Mahabharata and Ramayana, and I don't think I think only Mahabharata is part of this one.
Yeah, well, I say Mahabharata because again, Western. That's like the full book,
Yeah.
and then the Bhagavad Gita is like a section of that book. Like it's a short. It's like a moment. All right, so I'll just give the summary. So basically, the context is a war is about to happen, and
Right.
Arjuna
Yeah.
is the prince, and his charioteer is Krishna, but Krishna's also a god. I don't think he knows that Krishna's a god. I'm not too sure. I got to read the Bhagavad Gita.
No,
like,
because
just get the full
yeah,
context.
yeah. Okay, you finish, and I'll talk about Krishna a little bit.
Okay,
That
cool.
I know.
So he goes to the battlefield and he sees on the other side are like his family members, and he's like, Krishna, I can't kill my family, and Krishna's like, but it's your duty, you know. So like just rise up and like fulfill your duty.
Right.
But in order to fulfill your duty and get your mind out of the way, he teaches him yoga. And it's the first time the word yoga has ever been used, and that's where like all the practice stems upon. Like this whole like Western practice of like what is yoga and stuff.
Yeah.
It all comes from this one book. So if you haven't read the
Yeah.
book, it's like, well, if you want to know yoga, just read the book and like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get it. But so one thing that I found really interesting, I'll just start talking about it and then you can jump in.
Sure.
Is that yoga has nothing to do with postures.
Mm-hmm.
Yoga is like they said, there's like 4 paths to yoga, which is like bhakti, gyan, karma, and raja. And so bhakti is worship. So
Yeah.
it's like you just, but when you look at it, it's just like different ways to get your mind out of the way, right? Because that's what yoga is. It's like set aside your mind and then fulfill what it is you're about to do.
Yeah.
Right. So bhakti is like, okay, if I just devote myself to God, I don't even have to think about it. God, it's in God's hands. My mind's gone. If that doesn't work, there's karma, which is you do for the sake of others. So you put somebody else above yourself. So
Okay.
you won't be thinking about it. You're like, okay, well, I have to put my mind aside because it's for this other person, right? So that's that. Raja is activity. So you put your mind aside by exhausting yourself, you know, and you like go for like a run or like you do like a workout and you're like, oh, I feel a lot better. It's because your mind has moved out of the way.
Right.
And then Gyan, which is the one I love the most because it's the most difficult, they say, because you're using your mind to get rid of the mind. You logically come to the conclusion that you should set aside your mind. But it's hard because like in order to do that, you have to be so open-minded that's like maybe my belief is incorrect or maybe there's something wrong with me, you know, but a lot of people even say that they can do that, but they can't actually do it, you know, 'cause nobody
Right.
likes to be told they're wrong.
Yeah.
So Krishna teaches Arjuna this, and basically yoga, the conventional yoga that we know in the West is like you go do the postures and stuff, which that's like one form, which is the Raja yoga, right? It's the physical activity to get your mind out of the way. And then but there is no mention of any like actual postures in the Bhagavad Gita.
Right.
Yoga itself is just sitting down, and your eyes aren't even supposed to be closed. You just sit with your spine straight, you breathe, and then you like let your eyes blur out. You like lose focus and you just like you calm yourself that way.
Actually, yeah, no, that is
Yeah.
it's a sitting posture. That's all that is.
That's the only posture they
Yeah.
ever taught
Yeah.
in the book.
Yeah.
And then from that everyone extrapolates like, oh, like, you know, Tadasana, Savasana, you know, mountain pose, all these like crazy like things, but like if you really look into it, that's more just stretching. It's like ways to exercise the body,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
or like make your body more conducive to breathing. Because I was told once that the whole idea is that you stretch your body to make it like malleable for breath work, and then you sit in meditation.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's like that whole thing was never in the Bhagavad Gita.
Mm-hmm.
That was never taught as a piece of yoga. Yoga itself is just sitting.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
which I find cool because like the Zen practitioners also do the same thing. You know, they just sit. It's called Zazen, and you just sit. You don't do anything. You don't even close your eyes. You just sit there. That's the whole
Yeah,
practice called
yeah.
sitting practice.
Yeah, I mean, even the Buddhism, the monks do the same thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most standard position, I guess. That's
Yeah. So, what? I guess that dispelling out of the way. What were you gonna say about the Mahabharata?
yeah, no, like when
Or
you
the
mentioned, when you mentioned Krishna,
Mm-hmm.
like it's depicted in a couple of ways where like he's the avatar of Vishnu,
Right.
so he's its human form.
Uh-huh.
But I don't like what gets confusing sometimes is like, do we know he's God? Do they know he's God?
Right.
So that's where
Actually, I have a complete. This is like so left field, but I have a theory on this. But go ahead.
okay. So it's just like like when he comes to him, like this is still continuing from Krishna's own story that I know.
Okay. Yeah.
That like is is very similar to like Zeus's story, or even
Right.
even Jesus' story.
Right.
So, and then, like getting involved with the Mahabharata was like, he was still continuing. He was a king actually.
Who?
Krishna.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't. Yeah, that's that. In the book, he's a charioteer.
Yeah. So either he's coming to help out that kingdom
Right.
that he's like stepping outside of his area.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So yeah, he's named as that or something like he was doing that, but he wasn't.
It's like his job at that moment.
Yeah.
Okay. True.
Yeah. Because I guess I don't know if like again it's a story, so if he's like God, then it's like he knows where he needs to be to kind of
Right.
like because the whole point of Vishnu that is preserver, right?
Okay.
So that's his job in a sense.
Wait. Vishnu is Krishna.
Vishnu's avatars are Krishna and Ram for Ramana. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So okay.
So these
I
are human
understand.
forms of him.
All right. So my totally left field, but when I was reading it, so when you study like these ancient traditions and stuff, like psychedelics are a huge part of spiritual growth, right? Like the Eleusinian mysteries in Greece, where like they take like heavy doses of LSD. The yogis of old would take this thing called soma, which they believed was like weed and mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like mushrooms are a huge part of a lot of religious things. But so when I was reading it this other time and I was like looking at his analogy, I almost believe that Krishna is like a drug that Arjuna brought around, like acid. It's like, I'm about to take this to remember the truth. You know what I mean? Because like he's about to go into battle, and like him asking for counsel from Krishna is almost like he dropped a bunch of acid, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna see the reality of the situation. It's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because like even this part in the book where they're like, oh, reveal to me your many forms, Krishna, and then Krishna like shows like he's like friggin' a demon, basically, like millions of fangs, and like they just describe him as this like impossibly big demonic thing, and he's like, but you're supposed to be good, you know. But like that almost sounds like a bad drug trip. Like he took it and he's like, okay, show me the reality of the
Right.
situation. It's like, oh, I got hit with like a bad trip,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And a few things that I liked about the book is it talked about like Taoism without calling it Taoism, because in it he says like to truly know is to know that it's like beyond good and bad,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And even him turning into like a giant demon, he's like, but you're supposed to be good, but he's like, no, but I am both good and bad. I'm everything.
Yeah. That's why he's a preserver.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, but in the Taoism, it's like yin and yang, right? It's like the good and the bad, light and dark, and like they make reference to this all the time.
Yeah.
Krishna does when he's explaining the universe.
That's why
to
he's.
Arjuna.
That's what I'm saying. That's why he's the most. Like he's part of these stories, like out of the three main gods.
Mm-hmm.
Vishnu is the one that's part of these stories, not Shiva, not Brahma.
Right.
He's the one that's the centerpiece.
So Shiva is the destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
Brahma is creation.
Yeah, he's the creator.
And Vishnu is sustenance.
Yeah.
Which is like the triad of
yeah.
Like if you look at like things,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at things in the universe, they all fall either in creation, destruction, or sustenance, sustaining.
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty fast. That's one of the things that like drew me to Hindu lore. It's
Mm-hmm.
like they've encapsulated these truths about reality.
Right.
As like through analogies, whereas like
Yeah.
in Greek mythology they kind of do it, but it's more like the emotions of human beings, because each god in Greek mythology is like a different for like there's Athena, which is love, there's Hades, which is hate, right? You know what I mean? Like and all the stories are very like emotion filled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know, but are they emotion filled? It doesn't seem that way to me in
No, but I don't think they are. But like the reason, again, it goes into history why they're similar and certain, like why the stories are similar is like it follows even like the evolution of language.
Right.
So it's very interesting to see how they all match.
But and like we were saying,
But there could be differences because they have local people would have different stories. So like.
Right.
Like the ones who brought these things into India
Mm-hmm.
Probably had local legends and local stories that would mix in along with whatever was coming in new, right?
For sure. And like how how like the Silk Road, like trade was the biggest thing for human beings, right? And that's how we like spread things.
Yeah.
But through trade we also spread ideas like religion, right? And that's why you get very, very similar concepts being passed down, but through different stories to different cultures. It's funny how like because of globalization now we think of these parts as separate, but we've been interacting for like forever.
Yeah, for a very long time.
With each other.
Yeah,
You know, we just think of it like, oh, that's an Eastern religion thing. But it's like, no, East came to the West before. You know?
There's a lot of mix and mingling happening.
Yeah, we just don't think about it. You know?
Yeah.
Just like that book, the other book, The Lost Years of Jesus.
Yeah.
And he's actually, so Jesus, that could be another book we could actually dissect. But basically, Jesus is Isa, which is in the, what religion is that? Hindu religion? Tibetan? I think it's Tibetan.
Buddhism, I guess. Right?
Buddhism, yeah. He's Saint Isa.
Like, or I don't know if he was in Buddhism, but
he went to Tibet, then he went to India, and then he came back to Jerusalem where he was born, and like spread these things. But like we know,
like it's like northern India. I don't know if it was. It might have been Tibet. It was like some German that found these.
The books,
The books, right? Yeah.
And they make mention of Isa, and like when they read the stories, they're like, oh, this is Jesus.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, I think we convolute, we like mix things together. Here's a cool word: conflate. It means like you mix things up. So we conflate these stories, and we assume that they're separate, but they're actually the same origin. They have like a same connect. They've like, you know, that like 10 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever. Like you try and like connect the dots and stuff. Like how basically it seems like that we've just forgotten that they're all interconnected, or they've interacted at some point with one another.
I mean, things happen, and then we.
Yeah, like why wouldn't you take a good idea? Like how so in the West you hear of like Zen, and you also hear about Hinduism, and you hear about Buddhism. Yeah. But from Hinduism birth Buddhism, from Buddhism birth Zen. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's like they're evolving off one another. You just don't know that. We just hear them as separate entities. Right. Yeah. So So another thing that I thought was really cool was determinism was talked a lot in the book.
Yeah, which is an interesting perspective you told me about.
Yeah, like so we think of ourselves as having free will, but Krishna often makes mention that we have no free will. We're just acting out a play, you know? Well, I think it was like Plato who said like we're all just, oh, the world's a stage and we're all just actors, something like that.
Right.
It's like that's a Greek thing, right? But in Indian philosophy or Hindu philosophy,
Yeah.
they talk about the exact same thing, but Krishna's saying like just do your dharma, your duty, because like you're supposed to do it.
Yeah. Then
You
what?
know, stop like
yeah.
fighting it, you know, which is like, and he's like, even he says in it, inaction is also action, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah. Of course.
so like,
we talked about that too, right?
yeah,
Before, and it's
exactly. When
funny
people are
to
like,
see.
oh, just do something, it's like, well, not doing something is also doing something.
Yeah.
Right? But that, in that manner, it's like you're still playing a part of, so even if you think, oh, I'm not going to be a part of this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to let fate decide for me. Krishna mentions that, like, you don't realize that even saying that is a part of fate.
Right.
He says, like, the man of understanding sees the totality and understands that he has no choice in the matter. It's not me who's doing it. It's playing itself out.
Right.
Which makes complete sense if you actually look at determinism, because if you look at like cause and effect, right? Like, if you can find a cause to your action, then it's determined,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, Krishna mentions that so many times in the thing, because like Arjuna's like, I don't want to do it, but it's like you're already doing it, you know.
Yeah, that's I don't know if that really relates, but it's like the lines like you know, we are just putting on a play that's
Yeah,
already
that,
been
yeah. Oh, wait.
set up for the gods.
Oh no, I never heard that one. That's cool.
Like something like that, where it's like where like the movie's already there
Yeah.
as the gods are watching us
Yeah.
play
True.
out this movie or whatever
I've-
for them.
I've heard like you are in a theater watching yourself as the actor in the play, in the movie. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's like it's all taken from those sort of same sort of things, and it's just
But if it really is a movie, every movie has an end. Like every movie's already predetermined. You're just watching.
That's
the
what I'm
actor.
saying. Yeah,
So it's like even in that analogy, determinism.
yeah.
is
There's already a
present.
script.
Yeah,
that they're
exactly.
following.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah,
Exactly.
determinism. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to our same the free will thing. Exactly. Like
We only have the illusion of free will.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
just choose to believe it.
right.
But even choosing to believe it is deterministic, because there was a cause. You didn't want to feel helpless, right? So you're like,
So this book just goes into that kind of thing, like, or
yeah, basically,
these are your perspectives from the book.
No. He literally talks about this in order to get Arjuna to stand up and fight.
Okay.
He tells them like, okay, I'm going to teach you a way to get out of your own head. And then if that doesn't work, understand that you're not in control. If that doesn't work, just freaking do it. You know, like just,
Okay.
he just keeps, his whole idea is like get him to fight, because he has to fight.
Yeah.
Because and if you look at the word dharma, people like think of it like, oh, that's your duty, like your spiritual duty.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's meant to be that way. You know, I guess it could be wrong. It's
Right.
just my
Yeah. I mean,
perspective.
this
But-
is what happens with perspective, right?
But I think what dharma means is like it's already your predetermined like
Yeah.
way. Or maybe it's like this. It's like, well, all right, life is predetermined, but in trying to fight life, you get antsy. Like
Okay.
you get like a lot of pent up emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, see, it's hard to call determinism. Like it's hard to like say everything's determined, because then people are like, well, where did I come up with this this thought from, this
Okay,
concept?
yeah.
But just because you can't figure out where it came from doesn't mean that there wasn't a specific cause for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know, sorry, I just got confused there, because I was trying to think, because I was like, there's so many layers to determinism.
Yeah.
It's like because one could argue, you know, like, yeah, because all right, so people are like, oh, the dharma is like you have to follow your correct path, and it's like, yeah, but I see dharma as like following your natural tendencies, but simultaneously dharma could also mean that everything's already predetermined, so you're acting it out anyways.
Right.
So it's like, what layer of the path do you want to attach to?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like you could take it on the level of like, okay, I've always wanted to be a painter, but I'm working in a bank. So then, all right, go follow your true dharma, become a painter, right? That's like the superficial-ish level,
Okay.
right? Like that's like level 1, let's say.
Oh, yeah.
And then the deeper level would be like your dharma is what you're doing right now because that is predetermined. So it's like there is really no dharma.
Mm-hmm.
Dharma is just like the word for you're doing it because you're supposed to be here. But you hear that all the time, you know, like you're here because you're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then people are like, but they take it so non-deterministic. It's like, oh, it's because I was meant to be here. Like I'm like they don't, like they hear it and they think they're special, but they don't realize that it's just basically saying that, like, it's predetermined. You know what I mean? It's like,
for a lack of a better term. Yeah.
I think it's a very heavy concept because we can get so caught up in this play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, what do you mean my emotions aren't mine, and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything that you thought was missing from the book?
Missing. Like, what do you mean missing?
Or like any criticisms to the book that, or just in general, it was
like maybe I guess what I didn't like from it.
Yeah. Or you disagreed with?
Oh, disagreed with. Well, I don't speak Sanskrit, so I can't really, like, I'm only going off like multiple people's translations.
Gotcha. So that's another thing too, right? Even though it's an old book, there's a lot of things that happened even during that time in India too that could people have people have different discussions all the time. Like, people don't realize that even during these times there were atheists that were having all these sort of discussions too. Right. That we just end up reading about these things and they're thinking everybody was religious or everybody had, this type of viewpoint.
Right.
Or this is the only book that survived, let's say.
Actually, because I was thinking about it as you're saying that, like, you're like, what do you disagree with? I guess I would say I disagree with all of it.
Okay.
Because it's just like my own interpretation of it, because it's just written as a story.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They're not actually preaching anything.
So you're adding your perspective to the story? Is that what?
Like, all the things that I said were actual words from the book.
Okay.
Right? But your understanding of it.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say. Like
so it's like, okay, the cat was told not to go to the store, but he went anyways and he died.
Okay.
So I could just see that at face value. Okay, the cat went to the store, he wasn't supposed to, and he died. That's it. But you can also look at the levels of it, and you're like, oh, this is why you should always listen to other people. You should always heed warnings.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the book never explicitly said anything.
Okay.
Like, it didn't. It
So
prescribed
that's what I'm
things.
saying. That's what I'm trying to say. So, like, if you haven't read any of these sort of things, or haven't read any past books or past things,
oh, you'd be so lost. No,
you wouldn't understand what we're getting
no.
here.
Yeah, no. Don't read this book and think this book is word for word the truth. It's like the Bible. It's like, there's no way this thing is literal truth.
So exactly, that's what I'm saying.
It's totally an analogy. You have to read other things and then relate them back. Yeah. Or not. I mean, you could just take it at face value,
right.
What's his name?
So, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So the book itself, you're not going to get what we're talking about, but the other things that you've read or experienced,
I've linked it together. Yeah, basically.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, okay.
It's almost like not even a book review. This is like a book explanation.
I guess so, yeah.
Book analysis.
Yeah, in some way. Yeah. That's what I was trying to say, adding the book review part of it, which is what I'm trying to do.
Oh, okay, true. Yeah, I wouldn't call these book reviews, because, like, it was a good book. Yeah, I think everyone should read it.
We could still do that. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say, right? Like, it is different from, well, you're not going to get this out of the book right away.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Like, you might get it, but you need to, like, because this is like the second time I've read it.
Okay.
And
with
it's
different,
you've different understandings.
And you've read other things that you're adding on to it.
So, like, I first read this book 3 years ago.
Okay.
and then 3 or 4 years ago, maybe now, and then I read a bunch of other books, and then returning back to the same story, it's like, oh, I'm getting more, right? Guy Ritchie says you can glean what there is to glean when you're ready to glean what there is to glean.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who watch King Arthur, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a story about a person and a sword. But if you actually look at the in-depth,
Yeah.
analogy of King Arthur, you see so many levels to it.
Right. See,
know? That's what all
that's
stories are, though.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on your background of your knowledge of certain things.
Yeah,
when
for
you go
sure.
into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because then when you start to get into like politics, then it's like, well, what did they leave out of the book?
Mm-hmm.
But it's, yeah. Yeah, that's why I would answer it with like, what did you disagree with? I would say I disagreed with all of it because it's like, it's obviously not true.
Because it's not directly saying what you're saying right now, right? It's just
No, but there is like, I see it like if you're a student of yoga, you would take this, you should take this as the prescribed action, because if you are a true student, it's like believing in the, it's like saying you're Christian and you don't believe in the Bible. Makes no sense. How are you Christian then?
Okay.
Right? So it's like, if you're a true student of yoga and you haven't, like, you should prescribe to what's said in this book.
Yeah.
And basically what he's saying is like, there's no postures. Like, it's literally just sitting, you're just breathing. It's sitting and breathing and relaxing your focus.
Right.
All the other stuff is just like icing on the cake.
That's
the
not,
true cake.
right.
But that's not there.
Yeah.
Right. But in terms of like, if you're not a student of yoga, then
this is the foundation, let's say.
This is the foundation of yoga, yeah.
Yeah, this is what everything stands upon.
Yeah, but like, I would argue, because if you're like, well, yeah, so you'd say that like, oh, it's the foundation where everything stands upon, then I would argue, so you believe that you're better than Lord Krishna. Because Lord Krishna, the creator of all, not creator of all, the sustainer of all, he's like, he only prescribed this one way. So how are you going to expand on what he said? Krishna never returned, and Krishna didn't return and say, actually throw in these postures.
Okay.
Or actually throw in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like.
So it's not exactly. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's like.
It's fine. I'm trying to think of. I know it's not what I meant either, but it's just not I couldn't find the right analogy. It's like, because this is where it started, but then everything else was added on. But that's not what we did not want.
But exactly
the other things added on. Like, I don't know what you mean.
Because humans add the other stuff.
Right.
It's like, oh, he actually meant this. Like, he didn't mean that because he didn't say that. He only said this. Right. But if you're not a student of yoga,
I mean, you could say that about many things, right?
That's exactly for sure. Yeah, for sure. But if you look at people that aren't students of yoga and you look at it as a philosophy text, it's got a lot in there. Because even in the preface of the book, they were mentioning all the people that read it, and they weren't Hindus or students of yoga. They just read it and they were so influenced by it, Gandhi was obviously, but I think like Kennedy read it. Oppenheimer obviously read it because he quoted it when the book.
It.
And I saw that line in the book and I like highlighted it. Like I have become death, destroyer of worlds. Yeah, that's Krishna who says that.
Yeah.
That's straight up in there. So I thought that was kind
of cool. That's why you read it, right?
Right, but he's not like, you wouldn't be like, oh, I'm like a Hindu practitioner, yoga practitioner. It's just like, it's good philosophy.
Yeah.
So I think it's
a
like
lot of it is. And it shouldn't be taken necessarily. It's not a literal thing, but like in philosophical sense, in
for sure.
sense.
Unless you claim to be. The only time I pull that card about literal truth is when you claim to be a devout student of.
Right. Yeah.
Because if
I know
you are a devout student of, then
you should be really.
You'd be very like into it, like very like what do you call it? Not extremists.
Just a staunch believer. I don't know.
Oh, there's like I forgot what they say it for Christians all the time. Like, you're a blank Christian, like
Orthodox.
A.
Oh, no. A.
Yeah, it's like.
I don't know what.
I'll think
it's not coming to my head.
Yeah, it's not coming to my head either. Or maybe it's not an A. Maybe I'm just like messing up the word. But yeah, so yeah, when you follow like when you follow things super in depthly, then
Mm-hmm.
that's when I like to pull that card. The only thing I like about the reason why I'm like I'd say that I'm I would say that I like to study Zen very astutely. The reason
Right.
because in Zen there is no way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's kind of like on itself.
Right.
You know, it's like if you believe that to be good for you, then do it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. But if you look at like the evolution of these philosophies and teachings,
Mm-hmm.
of course you're gonna hit this, right? Like you have Hinduism, which is like very, it had a lot of great philosophies, but it's very like strict. Like there's like a caste system, and then people have to like live within those castes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Again, these things not necessarily come out of that, right?
okay,
These could be just.
but they believe in like your karma puts you in the specific caste, and like
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean it comes from the book itself. It's
right, no, right, yeah,
societal
Of
understandings
course,
or
but-
misunderstandings
right,
of it that
for
add
sure,
on to it.
for sure. But then from that Buddha, Gautama Buddha,
Yeah.
was because Buddha is just a title for awakened one, but Gautama, that Buddha,
Yeah.
was from Hinduism, and he's like, wait, this is incorrect, so he fought against it.
Yeah.
And then Zen was a student of Gautama, and he was like, oh, you only have to do this one thing. You don't have to do all the things that Gautama said.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because even Gautama was very strict in his. Is it ascetic?
I don't know.
I forgot what the word.
You know the words.
I think it's
I don't read
ascetic.
books.
But yeah, like Gautama was a super, another strict one. You have to follow my eightfold path and like all this. You have to like live perfectly. This is actually why, like quick interesting fact. But I like these two versions of Buddha, and I wear them on me like because they're and like they're like how I look at it. It's like if you're when you're on a test and you like write notes on your hand as like a cheat sheet.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about these trinkets and these like tattoos, right? It's like they're like cheat sheets. It's like, oh, don't forget this,
Right.
right? So like I have these two bracelets. One is like the Zen Buddha, which is the laughing Buddha, which is the fat one.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you've seen the fat Buddha, right?
Yeah.
And then the other bracelet is like the Gautama Buddha, right? And it's like, well, why do you have those two? Because they're conflicting. The Gautama Buddha is all about moderation. He's like, okay, control yourself, control your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how life should be. Moderation, middle way, right? Gautama invented the middle path.
Right.
And then the fat Buddha, the reason why he's fat is because he's like, no, don't go to the middle path. Enjoy life to the fullest. If you're angry, be fully angry. If you're happy, be fully happy.
Mm-hmm.
But see, they're like conflicting because it's like if they're both Buddhas, then which is the correct way?
Yeah.
But
Right.
there is no correct way because they're both just awake to the reality of there being a mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why they're Buddhas. They're awake to the truth of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we went super. So we tangentially
Well,
went
that
down all these
happens,
like
though.
yeah.
That happens.
But basically, the book is really good. You got to read it if you like yoga, and also read it if you don't like yoga because it's got a lot of good philosophy in there. I find. Oh, okay. Here's another takeaway. I believe, aside from the acid thing, where I think that Krishna is just a like a drug that Arjuna takes. But if you actually look at it, Arjuna is just an ordinary person with an ordinary problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the solution to this is an extraordinary outlook.
Yeah.
I believe that's what enlightenment means. Like ordinary problems, ordinary people, ordinary problems, extraordinary outlook,
Okay.
right? Because
Right.
that's all Krishna did. It's like, okay, well, I have to, like Arjuna's like, okay, I have to kill my family on the battlefield. And he's having problems with that, right? But it could be anything. It could be like, oh, I have to go to this job I don't like, or I have to take out the trash and it's cold outside,
Yeah.
right? But then Krishna basically just teaches him a way to step outside of himself and look from an objective perspective of like, okay, relax, chill. It's all good. Just do it.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like the other philosophy of like the only way out is through. Like sometimes the only way out is through because that is what Krishna teaches.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
again, if you haven't read the book, you would think that he taught all these amazing things, and then you would think that, like, if you go to class and then people are like talking about the Bhagavad Gita, like, like you get these yoga teachers like, I've read the Bhagavad Gita and like I studied under these masters and teachers, and it's like, oh man, I would never. That's how I felt too. That's why I started reading them, because it's like, okay, well, what are these books actually saying? Because you know, like, I believe that you're better than me just because you read the book. So it's like, so why don't I read the book?
Okay.
You know, and then when you read the book, it's like it doesn't actually have anything. All that other stuff is just added on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very like bare bones and minimal.
Okay.
What is taught.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So,
interesting stuff.
any final thoughts on Hinduism and or the Bhagavad Gita? Oh yeah, sorry. Let me just track back. So Arjuna, normal person. This is what I believe happened. Arjuna is meant to be a normal person. He's on the battlefield, has killed his brother's family, but there is Krishna or a drug, soma, or some sort of acid, and he takes it to remember the truth. Because he even says that actually at the very end. He's like, "Oh, I remember what it is. You must tell me now." And it's like, yeah, because you knew it already. You were definitely taking some sort of psychedelic.
Mm-hmm.
You're just forgotten, and then like it brings you back to the reality. And it's like, okay, just do your duty.
Right.
You know, he had an enlightening drug trip.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's what it is.
Okay.
Historical reference. Believe me. Yeah. All right. Final thoughts? Anything?
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective, I gotta say. I don't think most people think about that.
I similarly got
they
it.
just don't think drugs ever were existing in.
But they were.
I know that.
Mentioned so many times.
Yeah, exactly. But
you know,
nobody takes it
yeah.
or nobody knows that it's like a drug.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I just think it's like I don't know, a tea or something. I don't know. I'm just saying.
It's meant to give you like an enlightening revelation,
right?
You know.
Yeah.
But I started to think in this term when I read like Graham Hancock's work and like John Marco Areglo.
Yeah.
I forgot his name. John Marco Areglo, whatever. But so these historians who like have actually traced like the history, like esoteric history, like ancient history, they've noticed that drugs have been used throughout those times. And then I read like opium, and like it was very commonly used in Egypt and Greece.
Right.
So like it's been a part of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even animals do it now. There's some
animals.
Monkeys that do it.
Yeah,
They're
there's
drunk on some stuff.
Yeah, the fish do that too. The birds, sorry. Certain birds will eat like poisonous fish or something just to get high.
Yeah, seeing it right there.
The jaguar, there's a video online, you can check it out, jaguar getting high off DMT.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's eating like he's eating a plant and they start tripping.
Oh
yeah, it's a BBC one.
Oh no way.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's really cool.
Okay, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, and then the jaguar is tripping. No, but yeah, he's yeah. But that's where that other line comes from that I was saying before. Like, all forms of consciousness seek to elevate and expand itself.
Yeah,
because there's cats and catnip. There's another example. They trip out. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, I guess next week it'll be our last one. Vish is going to the motherland of the Bhagavad Gita.
I guess. Okay.
Yeah, he's going to India for 2 weeks.
Yeah, about 2.5 weeks, I think it is.
Oh wow, that's kind of long. Damn. All right, true. So next week will be our last weekly roundup for 2.5 weeks before Vish gets back, and then we'll probably do a little recap on what you've been up to.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think you went last year, right?
Yeah, I think I went last.
We did a podcast as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, about India, right? Yeah, so.
I don't think it'll change much.
Maybe times have changed. Oh, you're going back to India. Yeah, you gotta give me a Shiva. We're recording this. It's on the thing. I asked you last year.
I know
Shiva,
you asked me last.
Shiva statue.
But it's hard to find that. The reason why it wasn't there is because you got to go to a certain area in India where they focus on Shiva. You know what I mean?
I saw a giant Shiva statue.
Yeah, but that's not in where I'm going, right?
Well, if you find one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Really cool. I was looking for one.
Yeah, cool. That'd be sick.
I'm
gonna get that Shiva tattoo.
It's hard to find one, right?
Yeah.
But you can find a lot of Buddha statues. That's what I kept finding there.
Really Buddha, eh?
Yeah. I guess they're like good trinkets to
like
sell.
Like Gautama? Or the fat Buddha?
Can't remember offhand. No, I don't remember.
All right.
Oh, no, I think it was the fat one.
The fat one. All right. Yeah, because he's about riches and so you get riches. But fun fact, you know what the fat Buddha's name is?
I know.
Budai.
Okay.
And do you know what Buddhai means?
I don't know.
Buddy.
Okay.
Doesn't that make sense when you look at him? He's like
Yeah,
a happy
yeah.
Buddha. He's like, he's your
Mm.
buddy, yo. And I was because I was reading up on him. He's just like jovial. Has a lot of fun. He's
Oh,
like
yeah,
poor.
okay.
He's poor. That's why he carries around the sack. And through his poorness, he finds contentment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. All right. So until next week, stay tuned, and maybe we'll do another book review in the future.
Yeah. This is the
Yeah.
first one of the year.
Yeah, first one of the year. But we got a bunch.
Yeah.
Because I read a bunch.
Right.
All right. Until next time.
Peace.
Or read, and understand for yourself. Don't have it be told secondhand to you, because then you're falling prey to that person's interpretation.
Right. Yeah. Basically, just read it for yourself.
That was a great, succinct way of saying that. Until next time, take it easy.
Later.
Bye.